If I could choose one thing to become my personality for the rest of my life, it would be books. I could totally say that books define me because I not only like reading books, but I like writing. While I was in school, a lot of people who knew me would make fun of me for always liking to read, being a bookworm during the weekend while other people were going to party and whatnot. I was in the library. And even now that I'm even done with school, I still read a lot, not just a lot of fiction and non-fiction, but also books that help me to develop professionally. So I thought it would be a great idea to share some of the most impactful books that I've had, and I'm going to share fiction and a little bit of non-fiction, not really the books that I use for my professional development. The first one is The Poet X, and this is one of my favorites because it's a story of a young girl who is constantly being told to play small, to act small, to reduce herself, basically because she's a girl and she is in this environment that is very much patriarchal, with a mother that has a lot of internalized misogyny. And this is something that I really relate to so much, and who is rereading it. I just finished rereading it this year and I'm probably going to pick it again next year. Then I have And Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. I am a poet myself, and reading poetry is one of the things that I enjoy doing, and this collection by Maya Angelou is just one of my favorites. When I feel bored sometimes, I'll just sit down and I read it from cover to cover in just one sitting. It's just fantastic. And I definitely think, like many other people, one of my favorite poems written by Maya Angelou is Phenomenal Woman. Men themselves have wondered what they see in me. They try so much, but they can't touch my inner mystery. When I try to show them, they say they still can't see. I'm a woman, phenomenal woman. That's me. Another one that relates to me as a writer is Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke. I think it's in German. I should be able to say it because I'm studying German. Rilke. That's how it would be, no? This book is one of the most fantastic that really explains solitude very well. The letters here extensively talk about the importance of embracing solitude and how that actually goes a long way into making you better, especially in the field of expertise that you are in. It also highlights a lot of the challenges that we go through as writers that a lot of people don't get to see, and you know, those challenges that if you're a writer you would know, especially the mental ones. The other book is With a Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, and this is the second book of Elizabeth Acevedo's. The other one is The Poet X. We just love how Elizabeth just writes in a way that makes the younger adults feel seen. Even as an adult, it's a great book to read because it just makes the younger you feel seen. It was the first book that I ever saw with a black girl on the cover, brown skin, also natural hair. I think at the time it was published, it was not something that was quite common. Today it's actually quite common to find books with such covers. The story reminds you about the importance of going after your dreams, the importance of persevering and staying the course despite the challenges that come your way. The main character here is a teenage mom. She doesn't come from a well-off family, but she's able to go after her dreams because of the incredible support that she has. I think that's also one of the most important things to have. And also the importance of people who are able to recognize the talents that you have, and they are ferocious in ensuring that you stay the course and you're motivated and you have the will to continue doing whatever it is that you want to do, even when you feel like it's impossible. And I feel like this is something that is really lacking in today's day and age, especially because of individualism. There's so many people who are experts in their fields. They've been in their fields for a very long time, and instead of them actually taking their time and resources to mentor young people or to build other people from the ground up, I think that younger people are competing with them. When you look at the fights that the Gen Zs and the boomers are having on social media, the boomers are like, oh, Gen Zs don't want to work anymore, but the Gen Zs are like, there's no work. We have to work 3 jobs for us to just survive. But the boomers are not listening to that. They think that Gen Zs are just being too entitled. The boomers should be the one that are holding the hands of the Gen Zs and try to solve the problems the Gen Zs are having instead of just bashing Gen Zs. Because at the end of the day, we can't really do anything without support. Then there's this one, Purple Hibiscus by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This is one of my favorite books because it basically really made me feel seen. When it comes to growing up in a male-dominated patriarchal family with a mother that doesn't stand up to the men who are very much misogynistic, it's very difficult. This one, the Desiderata of Happiness, is also one of those that really inspires me or influences me. The poet and writer, I picked this one because of this poem, which I think is very much popular, the Desiderata. But this poetry collection became one of my favorites because the writing style of this poet is very much similar to mine. Reading these poems actually remind me over and over how the problems that we're facing in the world of today are not exclusive to this world of today, because even the people in 1940s, 1930s, 1920s were experiencing the same things, especially when it comes to things like people in power always misusing their power, how people who are richer think that the poor deserve to be poor, how a lot of people don't want to fight the injustices that we have in this world because they're like, oh, if it's not happening to me, it's not my problem. Something that I'm constantly thinking about, and when I came across this poetry collection, it really made me feel much better because it meant I didn't have to really cause a lot of stress in my life thinking about why the world is the way it is, because I realized that this is something that has been happening for a very long time, and maybe this is the nature of human beings. Some of the lines that I really like from the Desiderata: you're a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here, and whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be. With all its sham, drudgery and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful, strive to be happy. Then we have Sapiens, which is one of the most popular books. And I would say that it's very interesting when you read this book before you deconstruct the status quo and after you deconstruct the status quo, because that's what happened to me. Before I started my deconstruction on religion more specifically, I didn't like this book, but I picked it up again, I think the end of last year, or was it the start of this year? And this is after doing a lot of deconstruction, especially when it comes to capitalism, when it comes to religion. And I was like, these are the same things that I'm thinking about. And now this book, it's sort of like a Bible because it really teaches you about the world. If you want to really understand the systems that we have in this world, this is the perfect book. And the fact that it's actually written by a man makes a lot of sense, because a lot of the systems that we have in this world, well, they were written by men. A lot of societies, a lot of men are in positions of power that are actually keeping these systems in place. One of my best chapters is there's no justice in history, because really when you look at it, there's really no justice in history. The people who have always won are the evil people, and yet these evil people have always used religion to justify their actions. So that really makes you question, especially God. If these people are evil, say that God helped them to get power by doing all these evil things, what does that say about God? And that ties into this book, Difficult Women, A History of Feminism in 11 Fights by Helen Lewis. I think this is one of those that it's really meant to be, because I remember when I went to the bookshop, this was the only book that was remaining in the shelf, and I just picked it up because Difficult Women. I have always been called a difficult woman because I speak my mind, because I ask questions. You know, obviously, if you grew up, especially in the church, it's always women need to keep quiet. You need to let the men lead. The stories of women who really fought with all their might to bring change, especially for women, I would say these women were warriors. And it really focuses on the women in Britain because the writer is British. There's some stories here that are super heartbreaking, because you realize there were some women that refused to eat because they were striking. They went on food strike and they were force fed in prison. Like a pipe was being put into down the esophagus so they can be forced to eat. They were doing this because they wanted change. And one thing that really caught my eye in this book is this idea of women being told that your purpose is to give birth to children. And when you really think about it, all women don't need to give birth to children, because this world cannot take care of that many children. Because if you look at the world now, there's increasing mental health crisis, there's increasing unemployment, a lot of people are becoming poorer, people are living paycheck to paycheck. Basically, the world can't take care of the people that are already here, because the world systems prefer to have few people that hoard everything and to let other people suffer. That just tells you that the world doesn't want any more human beings. But something else about that is that the reason why society is always pushing women to believe that the only purpose they have is giving birth to children, it's because child rearing takes a lot of your time. You won't have time to fight for your rights and freedoms. And when you really think about it, when men realize realized that women are so powerful, it obviously made sense to sell women this idea that having children is the divine purpose, telling women that getting married is the only goal you should have in life, because it means that you will never really have time to think about yourself. And when you don't have time to think about yourself, you will not even think about the world that you're living in, and that means you will never really think about even changing the injustices that are there, because you don't even have the time for yourself. You are so busy taking care of a husband, taking care of children, obviously feeling like a failure over and over. And moving on, we have Under the Udala Trees, written by a Nigerian author, Chinelo Okparanta. And this was really the first book that introduced me into the world of someone who is in the LGBTQ community. And obviously, if you grew up like me in a patriarchal, male-dominated society, homophobia was the default. It wasn't even a question. Everywhere you went, whether it's the church, whether it's school, homophobia was always being preached. But as someone who was always asking questions, I never really understood why people are so invested in wanting to control how other people live their lives. As someone who was expected to reduce herself just because I was born a woman, it's always something that I never really bought into, because it really just didn't sit well with me, this idea of, oh, you have to hate someone just because they've chosen a different way of living. And getting to see the challenges that people in this LGBTQ community, especially in the African cultures, are going through is really eye-opening, but also very heartbreaking, that people will use the excuse of religion to oppress other people, to even justify the murder of people. And also the fact that God is seated somewhere and just seeing people using his name to do bad things and he's doing nothing about it. And then there's other books that have been very impactful to me, but I don't have the hard copies because I would go to the libraries in France and get them from there. And the two books in particular have been written by Elif Shafak, and she's one of my favorite authors. One of her books is Black Milk, which is more of a memoir. And in this book, she talks about the crisis that she had as a writer and wanting to be a mother, and even the experience she had after giving birth to her child. She wasn't able to write anything for about 8 months. And this was really comforting, because as a creative myself and an artist who is very committed to her work, I should even say that my work consumes me. Even the videos that I'm creating on YouTube, they are more of my work as a writer. They are more of written works presented in video format. For me, it's not a hobby, it's something that I must do. It's like oxygen. If I don't write, I don't feel alive. Something that really takes over your life, and other people that come into your life have to just accept that that is how it's going to be. It's not a choice. It's like this artistry has chosen you. For me, it's like writing has chosen me. And it's just hard to navigate relationships, because it's either these relationships are going to actually enrich your artistry, or they're going to take a lot from you that you don't have enough to give to your artistry. And that conundrum is very difficult to actually navigate. The other book by Elif Shafak is The Apprentice, and this is one of my favorites because of a line, "Be like water." It's a book that really teaches you about being open when going through life, instead of being this kind of person that is very rigid. You find a way of going on your journey. The challenges are gonna come, but it doesn't mean that you should stop living your life. And I think it's a very great message. This has been such a difficult video to film because of all the noise around, so many distractions. Because that is the list of my most impactful books so far. I hope it's helpful in one way or another.